and welcome to Pockenrop. This is the start of a new series of videos called Off Topic, which is exactly what it says on the tin. It's things that aren't directly related to music, and it's a way for me to involve my son a little bit more in these videos. We were having a chat in the car on the way back from somewhere, and the idea of Off Topic was born, and we've decided to look at animated movies. You have a YouTube channel of your own called
The First Party Idiot.
We've come up with our top 30 animated movies of all time. And so, before we dive into those top 30s, I'd remind you to subscribe if you've not already done so. Click the thumbs up to like the video and the bell to receive notifications of future content. And who's going to start? You or me? So let's dive in with my number 30, which I'm not going to talk about now because it's going to appear later on someone else's list.
My number 30, though, you didn't particularly like, and it is Mitchell's versus the Machines.
Didn't even long list it.
Yeah, I think it's just really funny, really heartwarming, like a family.
I didn't think much of it.
It's got a really unique animation style, which Sony seems to be doing quite a lot now. The only real problem that I can think of is a lot of the humour is already a bit dated, despite only coming out about 2.5 years ago.
No,
I do think it's a really, really good film.
Okay. My number 29 is The Aristocats from 1970. It's just a good, fun movie with some good music in it. Yes, there's an issue with Chinese racism in one of the cats in it. But it's got a good villain. I like the role of Edgar and the fact that he makes a huge mistake because of his skewed logic when it comes to the cat's 9 lives. But I placed it at number 29, The Aristocats.
My number 29 is DreamWorks, and you also don't particularly like this one. It's not anymore, and it's Kung Fu Panda.
No, I don't think much.
I think it's funny. I think
Didn't make long list again.
I think Jack Black is amazing as Poe, as he is in everything. And it's just got quite a nice message of just being yourself.
Okay.
It's quite creative. It's really creative as well.
My number 28, I'm not going to talk about here because it's coming up later.
I'm also not going to talk about not my 28 because it's coming up much later.
My number 27 will come up later.
My number 27 is Toy Story 2, which was on your long list.
It was on my long list, didn't make it in. I think it's the weakest of the three.
I agree. I don't know. I don't know why. I think it's just a little bit too similar to the first.
My number 26 will be coming up on someone else's list later.
My number 26 will be coming up
right now because it's actually my number 25, and it is
Monsters Inc.
Great, beautiful movie, the least cynical movie ever made because it hasn't got a nasty bone in its body. And one of the best ever twist villains in Waternoose.
Yeah.
Really unexpected. You didn't see it coming. I remember seeing it in the cinema, and it's a lovely movie, Monsters Inc. So it happens to be my number 25.
My number 25 didn't make it onto yours, though it was on your long list, I believe, and it's Over the Hedge.
Really funny, actually. It was on my long list.
It's really funny. It's the Verminator is just the best villain of all time. I don't know why we were.
I will happily watch Over the Hedge.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not a movie I would turn off because it is funny. I just don't think it's as good as basically the movies that are on my list.
Yeah.
My number 24 is also still to come.
My number 24 is also still to come. It's going to come up on Dad's list.
My number 23 is higher on your list, so again, I'm not going to talk about it here.
A lot higher. My number 23 is not on yours, and it is Wallace and Gromit, Curse of the Were-Rabbit.
I am astonished you have this, because you were terrified of Wallace and Gromit when you were a kid.
Well, I used to be scared, or not scared, I used to be really creeped out by anything that was stop-motion animated. And then I watched Coraline, which is meant to be creepy, and is. But it gave me... though it's a really good film, it didn't make it onto my list, unfortunately. It gave me an appreciation that I didn't have before for other stop motion that isn't meant to be creepy. And
I actually rate Chicken Run higher. My number 22 is Lego Batman, and you had that, didn't you, at 24?
Oh yeah, that was my 24, yeah.
Lego Batman, quite possibly one of the 5 best Batman movies ever made. Christopher Nolan trilogy is incredible, and the Batman 1989 movie is also great, but Lego Batman, it just leans into the humorous side of Batman that was there, as shown in the 1966 movie. And blinkety blink, blink blink.
Good references.
Blink. Yeah.
Lots of cameos with of other Warner Brothers.
The Daleks appearing and referred to as British robots. That's just so they could get round all of the whole licensing issues. The one thing I think they got wrong was they had Ralph Fiennes in it playing Alfred the Butler, and not also voicing Voldemort. Given that he played Voldemort in all the Harry Potter movies, it would
have been the perfect setup for a joke.
Your number 22?
My number 22 is Cloudy the Chance of Meatballs 1. I prefer this to the second one because, well, the second one is funnier and cuter. I think the first one's got a better story.
It was long list because it is a bizarre and incredible movie.
At least for me. It was long list for me.
My number 21, 101 Dalmatians from 1960. The first Disney movie that was contemporaneous to its release and when it's set, from the book by Dodie Smith, and one of the best villains ever. I mean, Cruella de Vil is proper vile.
Yeah.
And obviously spin-offs, we've got the live action 101 Dalmatians and 102, and then there's the Cruella movie, which is just
a really good film.
Great. And I do wonder how they're going to turn that Cruella into the Cruella that's in the movies.
Or they just don't.
Yeah. Your number 21?
My number 21 will be mentioned later.
And if you're fed up of hearing the words will be mentioned later, just be thankful that we're making this an awful lot quicker as a result. My number 20, not on your short list, so I don't know if it was on your long list, the Peanuts movie.
It was on my long list, but...
So, I used to collect the Coronet Peanuts books, and I probably as a child identified with Charlie Brown more than was healthy. And so I went to see this movie with a huge amount of trepidation because...
Expecting it to be awful.
Well, I was fearful because it was such a huge part of my childhood, and it is so honouring to Charles Schultz's work. And it was everything I wanted in a Charlie Brown and Snoopy movie, and didn't know I needed. It was beautiful. I loved it.
Yeah, my number 20 is a Disney Renaissance film. It is Aladdin.
Yeah, I was surprised that this didn't actually make my top 30, because it is such a good movie.
But yeah, Jafar is a great villain.
And achieves his goal.
He does.
And is tricked out of his win very cleverly. It's
because he's too ambitious.
I think what might have actually...
Macbeth!
I think what might have actually ruined it ever so slightly for me is the live action version.
Sorry.
My number 19, still to come on someone else's list.
My number 19 is Toy Story, and it has been...
Okay, so that was my number 26.
Yeah. Toy Story is...
groundbreaking.
The beginning of 3D animation.
And probably more than any other film, transformed animated movie making.
Yeah.
It's a great story.
It's got characters.
Great characters. Characters you
funny.
love.
It's really funny.
It's funny. It's absolutely incredible movie. I placed it at number 26. And you've put it higher at number 19.
Yeah.
My number 18, it's the last Disney classic movie that was actually greenlit by Walt Disney himself with The Jungle Book. There's something about this movie because it was, as most Disney movies were at the time, they were released every 7 years or so into the cinema. I remember seeing it at the cinema. The music is just incredible. Bare Necessities and Trust in Me and I Want to Be Like You. Great story, great songs, great characterisation. Jungle Book.
Yeah. So my number 18 has also been skipped from your list because it was going to come up later, and it's Mulan.
I placed that at 27.
It's dark.
And something that we only just realised on a previous attempt to record this, that it stops being a musical when it gets proper dark, which is as they come over the hill and they're singing A Girl Worth Fighting For, they come across the devastated scene of the village.
Yeah,
And corpses everywhere, no one left alive. And they no longer sing. You'd normally had the big hold the note number of on the word for, and they say for. And at that point, the movie takes a left field turn and it stops being a musical. It's the last song out of four, and that is an incredible directorial decision.
A lot of the one of the main complaints towards Mulan is that it stops being a musical, but
it works because it does.
I think
movement.
more musical numbers would kill the tone.
It would, and the tone is dark. We then have the avalanche later on, and a whole load of the Hun there's a huge body count, human body count. Really dark movie, Mulan. Yeah. Number 17, I have placed Pixar's Up. Now, yes, the first 8 minutes are phenomenal, but I enjoy the rest of the story. I love the dogs. Doug, I've only just met you, but I love you.
Squirrel.
The squirrel stuff, it's just... I know there's an issue with how old is Charles Muntz. I really like Up. I think it's a great movie. I placed it at number 17. You didn't even get it in your top 30.
My 17 will be mentioned later, but...
And my number 16 will get mentioned later.
My number 16 is Hercules.
You mean Huncules?
No, actually I mean Heracles, because it's Greek. But Hercules is just really funny. The gospel music numbers do work really well. They're not as strong as other Disney movies, but they are still really good musical numbers within the setting of the film. Hades is the best Disney villain.
Oh, he's a great villain, no question there. Really entertaining villain.
And yeah,
has my hair gone out? I mean,
and it's, despite being called Hercules instead of Heracles, it's fairly accurate to Greek mythology with like the Fates and all of the Titans and all that stuff.
My number 15 is going to come up later.
And my number 15 was on his list earlier, and he didn't say it, and it's How to Train Your Dragon 2.
My number 30.
Yeah.
2/3 of the way into the movie, Hiccup's father, Stoic, dies. They're killed by Toothless, ostensibly, under the control of the big bad of the movie. And it's a particularly emotional moment because Hiccup has just been reunited with his mother, who was presumed dead. And Stoic has just been reunited with the love of his life. And it's a beautiful moment where they are reunited and then Stoic is taken away from them. And it's gut-wrenching.
Yeah.
There's proper high stakes in this movie. Really good storytelling, and it's a great movie. I placed it at number 30 though. My number 14 is still to come.
My number 14 is Wreck-It Ralph, which was on your list earlier. But
it was. I had that at number 28.
So yeah, Wreck-It Ralph is really funny, and part of the reason that I think I have it higher than you is probably because you've watched it too much. But also, I am a proper gamer. You are not. I can appreciate a lot of the more modern video game references that in a way that you can't. Because there's stuff like from Halo, there's stuff from Street Fighter, that type of thing.
The other thing that I think dragged it down my list is the unnecessary sequel. Ralph Breaks the Internet.
Yeah.
The sequel nobody asked for.
Oh, a lot of people asked for it. They just didn't ask for that.
It just ended up tumbling down the list because
they shouldn't have got
the definition of a bad sequel is one that makes you like the original that bit less, and that's kind of what Wreck-It Ralph 2 did for me.
Yeah.
Not that it's awful. It's just
it is pretty bad. But it's not as bad as some people say it is, but it does bring it down the first a little bit.
My number 13 is coming up later.
My number 13 is Lion King, which was further up on...
Only just, I had it at 15.
Yeah.
So it's roughly similar, really.
I think Lion King is... The first half is phenomenal. I think if it was if the second half was as good as the first half. The second half's still really good, but if the second half was as good as the first half, it could easily be top 3.
Well, this is where I disagree with you. I think the second half is as good as the first half, and yet I placed it lower than you. Maybe the addition of Timon and Pumbaa can be a little bit tiresome, but the whole idea of him finding who he is, discovering who he is with the help of Rafiki, and then going back and reclaiming Pride Rock, and then we get the comeuppance of Scar. And don't forget, Scar, another one of those Disney villains who achieves what they set out to do. He does kill Mufasa. He does become king. It's based on Hamlet.
Yeah.
But it's great. Lion King is a special movie. And number 12, you haven't got this on your list, but I think this is a special movie. It's from Pixar, Turning Red. We've got little bits of anime styling making its way in, very cleverly inserted, like the switch to the red panda stuff, where it goes black and white for a flash image. And
for about 3 or 4 frames, it's not much.
It's hilariously funny, in my opinion.
I disagree.
Mei Ling Lee is just delightfully quirky. There's coming of age, and I've got a 13-year-old daughter, his sister, and so it resonated with me. It tackles issues of menstruation really well, and it's a great coming of age movie for young girls. And the fact this wasn't released at the cinema is such a shame, because I think it would be much, much higher regarded. Fantastic movie, Turning Red.
Yeah. My number 12 is following on with the trend of the last few, which is he skipped it because it's been on his list earlier, and it's the Lego Movie.
Yeah, my number 14. Very similar numbering.
Yeah, it's just really good.
Lord and Miller again. Currently, I think the kings of animation.
Yeah, I don't think I can think of a film they've made that's bad.
No, I don't think I can either. And so much brilliant attention to detail. Great script. And Benny. Spaceship! And his helmet breaks in the exact point that all of the 1980s spaceship Lego men's helmets broke, on that little chin strap. Attention to detail is just absolutely spot on.
It's a really good looking movie. It holds up for being nearly 10 years old.
My number 11, it's not on your list, and I disagree with him in that he thinks the first movie is better. It's Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 2. This is again Lord and Miller. Mm-hmm. I think it's funnier. I think the villain is great, Chester B. I love the character of Barbara, the orangutan, and the monkey and the ape interplay. It's properly funny. Yes, I get the point that Finn becomes a bit of a git in this, but he has a redemption arc and realises what's more important than fame and success is family and friends. And I think it's a really lovely movie. And don't forget the Foodibles. The Foodibles are fantastic. We have that brilliant little strawberry, and then you've got the leeks, and it brings in a proper characterisation for Finn Lockwood's dad. I think it's a much better movie than the first one.
Well, I disagree, but...
Oh, and apart from anything else, given that this is the Pockenrop channel usually about music, it's got a Paul McCartney song. It's got New featured in it. Yes! Oh, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 2 is my number 11.
My number 11 will be mentioned later.
Okay. My number 10 is Tangled. That was on your list previously.
Yeah, it was number 17 on mine.
Great songs. Really, really great songs that are intertwined in the movie in such a great way. We've got gaslighting. I mean, Mother Gothel, for heaven's sake. So self-absorbed and abusive in the relationship. Really nasty villain. Deserves the comeuppance she gets when she ages. Great movie, Tangled. Really.
My number 10 is Toy Story 3. And
so I had that at number 24.
I think this is the best of the Toy Story films by far.
I agree. I agree with that. I just don't have it as high. I think I've overwatched it.
Unlike most people will say that the last 5 minutes is the best part of the film by far.
Yes, it is.
I disagree.
Well, it's because you haven't fully grown up.
I think it's the furnace scene. That is just so emotional that.
Well, yeah, I suppose if you've grown up with the characters as a child, because you introduced to the characters as a child,
Yeah.
the fact that they could be being burnt to death must be quite hard to watch.
And the fact that they set up because it came out in 2010, which was the amount of time after Toy Story 2 for people to watch it to be Andy's age. I think that's just cool.
It was cleverly done. Fun fact, that's the first film you went to go and see at the cinema. I took you when you were 3.
Wow.
I know.
Wow.
My number 9 appears higher on your list.
My number 9 appears higher on your list.
My number 8 is Beauty and the Beast.
This appeared way back on mine at number 21.
Beauty and the Beast is phenomenal. It's got flaws, but as a piece of art, literal art, because it was hand-drawn, it's incredible. It has got wonderful characters, although I do think that Belle actually is a bit of a... Yeah. Because the way she talks about the people in the French village is very smug and self-important. She calls them little people, little town full of little people. That she obviously thinks herself better. And I do get the point that her falling in love with the Beast is kind of Stockholm Syndrome. But again, Gaston is so unpleasant that you can't blame her for falling for someone else.
The reason I have it lower than you is I don't think it's very funny.
No, it's not very funny, but it's a beautiful story.
And it's not funny in a way that it doesn't quite 100% hold my interest the entire way through. My number 8 will be mentioned later.
Okay. My number 7 is How to Train Your Dragon, the original, which you had lower down, didn't you?
I had it at 9, not much lower.
Oh, I just love Toothless. And this is the
What's your
burgeoning
favourite line?
relationship. Oh, yeah, thanks for nothing, you useless reptile. It makes me laugh every time.
These films have stakes in a way that very few, particularly animated movies, do. My number 7 appeared earlier in your list, but you skipped it, and it's Incredibles.
My number 16.
Yeah, Incredibles is...
Well, it's incredible.
One of the best superhero films ever.
Yeah.
And definitely the best superhero film I've seen that's not Marvel.
And not only is it one of the best superhero films, it's also one of the best James Bond pastiches. Because the villain's lair is a lift from You Only Live Twice.
One of my favourite
Hollowed
things...
out volcanoes.
One of my favourite things in just any Pixar film ever is that they named the island No Manison.
Yeah, No Man is an Island. Very clever.
Yeah, I just think that's
And the reveal, the villain reveal, that Syndrome is Buddy. Brilliant. Actually, The Incredibles is a great movie. My number 6 is Tarzan. You haven't even got this in your long list. Tarzan is a stunning animated movie, in my opinion. The background scapes are phenomenal, but you only really notice them on the 3rd, 4th, 5th viewing because the action is so well done. I love the character of Tarzan, the songs. Now, Phil Collins comes in for a lot of stick musically, but the marriage of Phil Collins' songs and Tarzan's visuals is perfect. Son of Man is an absolutely great song. One of the best Disney songs ever. And I love You'll Be In My Heart. And it's just... Tarzan is fantastic. And Brian Blessed as well, voicing the character of Clayton, is just perfect casting. It's a great film. Are you now thinking that maybe Tarzan should be in your top 30?
I haven't watched it enough. I need to watch it again sometime to fully get an opinion on it. That's why it wasn't in my long list.
Okay. Your number 6 then?
My number 6 is The Prince of Egypt, which was further up on
That was my number 9.
This is stunning film.
It is a stunning film.
Honestly, this might be, other than maybe a couple of others, genuinely the best film on the list. Even if it's not my favourite by any. It's not.
It's a great musical.
It's got really good music.
It makes... I mean, we've known the story of Exodus. I've known the story of Exodus for years, and you've been reading it in your Bible quite a bit. But it really opens it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's somehow biblically accurate while also like not in your face Christian.
Yeah. It's not Christian at all. It was made by Jews.
Yeah.
SKG Dreamsworks is run by 3 people who are Jewish. So it's actually a Jewish story, and there's a nice little disclaimer at the beginning and said this is an interpretation of a story that's been important for millions of people for thousands of years.
Yeah, but it's not in your face enough to like non-religious people or...
No, you're right, it's not. It can be watched in that way as well.
It can be watched by people who aren't religious and don't believe any of it.
Yeah, it's great songs in it.
And
really,
the idea that Moses was brothers with his enemy,
his adversary,
and it explains why he tried to get out of it in the.
Oh yeah, it does. It's
story.
Really, really good film, Prince of Egypt. My number 5 was lower on Joel's list, but it's Encanto.
Yeah, this was my number 11.
I had a reaction to Encanto when I first watched it. We watched it on Christmas Day on Disney Plus when it had just been released a couple of years ago. And
none of us really liked it.
And
we thought it was very, very mid.
I really did. I came out thinking, what was the fuss about that? Because people have been saying how incredible the songs by Lin-Manuel Miranda were, and I personally don't think much of Hamilton, and I don't particularly like the songs in Moana, and so I thought, I don't get it. I don't see what people are making a fuss about. I didn't think the story was all that.
And
then you were off sick from school.
Yeah. And we rewatched
and you chose to put Encanto on. My second viewing of it.
Went. It clicks.
Wow. I didn't get it to begin with, but the second viewing, it's my number 5 animated movie of all time. It's incredible. It all works. It's got lore. Well, it has. That just, you know what? That all ties in and makes sense. The fact that Mirabelle's dress contains a representation of everybody in the family. The whole idea that, although it hasn't got a villain, you know what? It might just have a villain in
Stop getting into the theories!
It works.
You watch too much
But he's right. The Lin-Manuel Miranda songs are special, but it takes the second listening for you to really hear it. Oh, Encanto's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Your number 5.
My number 5 will be mentioned later.
Okay. My number 4, Coco from Pixar.
This was my number 8.
For a film that is basically all about death and the afterlife, it deals with it in such a good way that...
The final Remember Me is sad. If you don't say that's sad, then you're wrong.
It isn't sad because you see her again.
It's happy sad. And no, you don't see her again. You see her ghost again.
Yeah. I think Coco is a phenomenal story, a phenomenal achievement.
Somehow, my number 4 will still be mentioned later.
Number 3 is Inside Out.
This was my 28.
And I'm cross about that because Inside Out's incredible.
Joy is annoying!
Yes, she is, but she's meant to be.
I know, but
she's meant to be
hard to get past.
She's meant to be all ego, that she is in control and thinks that her character's person has to be happy the whole time. The score's brilliant.
I think this is probably my second favourite score in a Pixar film.
The demise of Bing Bong is... That's a proper tear moment for a character who's blooming annoying.
And kind of useless.
Yeah. But him being forgotten is just...
Take Riley to the moon for me.
Yeah. That is one of the most heartfelt moments ever. Sadness is taking control is a great end to the movie. That Joy finally gets that there's a reason to be sad, and it's important that she's sad.
My number 3 is Wall-E. This is my 4th favourite film of all time.
So I
Maybe
placed
even
this at
my third.
19.
I think it's a perfect film.
I think it's
Actually, no.
Flawed.
No, there is...
I think
The
it's
only
seriously
flaw I
flawed.
have is occasionally the humans are a bit... Actually, no, there are 2 flaws that I have there. So occasionally
Their characterisation is somewhat thin,
yeah,
despite the fact they're really fat.
the humans are a bit... The only humans that seem to have a character and a personality is the captain. And maybe the 2 that are like reprogrammed
That's
by
the
Wall-E.
point.
That is the point.
On to my number 2, and my number 2 animated movie of all time is Zootropolis,
Which was Zootopia in America.
which is a better title.
And also, sometimes here it was called Zootopia. It was really confusing.
Animal movie. It's got a very strong message about tolerance and acceptance, and particularly around race.
Yeah, this was
It
my number
delivers
5.
a great message brilliantly. I love Judy Hopps. I think she's hilariously brilliant. I love Nick Wilde. I like Captain
It's got a hustle,
Bogo.
sweetheart.
The only thing in the movie that annoys me is Shakira's character, which is Gazelle.
I don't know.
But she's so peripheral.
The only thing that annoys me in this is the twist villain. Maya Sheepweather. She's
Bellwether.
Bellwether. I cut the sheep. Yeah, she's just such a non-character.
I don't know. I think she works because fear always works. I like Zootropolis so much.
This was my number 5.
Great cop movie.
He
Great
didn't give me a chance to
animated
say
movie.
Yeah, it's a really good film.
Your number 2.
My number 2 is Spider-Verse 2, which was...
Across the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
I placed that at number 13.
It's just so good.
It is very good. Great animation style.
Oh my gosh, I can't get over it.
Really
It's so
leans-
hype. It's a
really
2.5 hour film. It felt like 30 minutes.
It did feel quite fast, actually. I agree.
Even though it's paced worse than the first, in my opinion. Only slightly, but I think it's paced
It
slightly worse
leans
than the
into the aesthetic of the fact that it's a comic book movie.
And also...
really well.
And also...
And they're characters that are worth spending time with, Miles and Gwen.
So, and this also links to my number 1, which is Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, the first one.
It's my number 1 favourite film of all time. It's phenomenal. The animation is amazing. The humour is amazing. And just the attention to detail is perfect. It's like... To show that Miles is out of the loop, it's something like... All of the Spider People are animated on every frame, but Miles is animated on every other frame.
I didn't know that. Is that as in this, it's done on the second movie as well?
It's done on the second movie as well, but also I can't remember which character, but there was the Spider-Punk.
Yeah.
In
In
the second movie is animated on every 3rd frame,
Oh.
and his guitar is animated differently to him or something. It's something like that, and it's perfect attention to detail. And like in the second film, Gwen's theme is a sped up version of the original Spider-Man theme.
Well, I have to say, the music
The score is so good, and so is the music.
I don't like
Track music.
the music that's used in Across the Spider-Verse, but I don't notice it because it is actually brilliantly married with the film.
Yeah.
And that they are...
track music
so
makes
again,
sense.
it's Lord and Miller. I think they're the kings of current animation.
Yeah, I can't get over how amazing this film is.
Yeah. Well, that leaves my number 1. What number did you have this?
4.
This is your number 4. Emperor's New Groove.
It's the funniest film.
It's-
It's the funniest film on this entire list.
Out and out screwball comedy, and my favourite Disney villain, Yzma, because she's just ridiculous. My favourite Disney villain sidekick in Kronk. The buddy part of the Emperor, Kuzco, and Pacha is great. Patch's family, the kids are just... It's such a great comedy, and the fact that it's an animated movie is almost ancillary because it could have been a disaster.
It could have been. It was a disaster in cinema, in box office.
It was a box office failure, but it's so quotable, no touchy, and bless you for coming out again. It's great. Such a funny, fantastic movie. I'm sorry, I just love The Emperor's New Groove. I don't get tired of watching it. There's a Joker frame, it feels like. And
I have two more things to add.
go on.
The first one is that this has been my 6th favourite film of all time for a long time. But my 5th favourite film of all time, Thor Ragnarok, I watched back to back with Emperor's New Groove on the way back from Italy.
Mm.
And Emperor's New Groove overtook it.
Yeah.
Emperor's New Groove is now my 5th favourite film of all time, which means 4 of my 5 favourite films of all time are animated.
I don't think Disney have ever done better. I really don't.
The second thing,
and if you've never watched Emperor's New Groove, go and watch it because it's a treat. It's a delicious, madcap, off the wall, illogical delight.
The second thing I've got to add is pull the lever, Kronk.
Wrong lever.
No, you didn't sign off.
Well, I think that's the equivalent of a mic drop.
I'm back.
All that remains to say is please subscribe, like, and hit the bell for notifications. Thank you very much for watching. If you've enjoyed this, please leave a comment and other suggestions for off-topic topics. And thanks for watching. See you next time.